Hey everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. Yeah, that's right. I'm ducking and jiving
What were you looking for?
Well, because I got the camera right here and I can't see the countdown thing behind the screen there. So that's why I'm doing that. But you're back in the team room, a little peek behind the scenes of how I have my setup since I've got a screen right there so that I end up looking at the camera. But anyway, Trent and I got together today to talk about some kind of rando subjects, really, just kind of play cleanup from some of the episodes that we've had and to answer some of the questions that folks have thrown our way. So kind of one of them is how to be the kind of the best possible candidate you could be. And I don't necessarily mean in the pipeline, but also in development. So, you go, you see a recruiter, you get through MEPS and you pass your IFT, you're in development and you're waiting to go. Like, in your opinion, Trent, like what is the couple of the key traits or the best way that they can possibly be the best candidate in a development group?
Well, this is easy, right? Because we talked to the coaches down at the SWIC, and I think one of the big things that came out of that podcast was one of the things that students lack, at least they don't show outwardly very well, is humility, right? Like just because you pass the IFT and all these other things, like you're starting a program, just like any other program, you need to go in there with a little bit of humility, knowing that you don't understand, everything about everything. I know that you watch this podcast, and thank you, and you're probably way better informed than a lot of other people, but you have an opportunity to scrape that developer's brain, for all the information that you can possibly glean from them, to influence the other people around you and all the other things. Like just walk in there with a little bit of humility and the willingness to learn and to become a better version of yourself, because that's what it's there for.
Yeah, I mean, your developers are all folks that have been in the community. Some of them had been in the community for longer than others. You got folks that had retired and did 20 plus years, who had been at some of the top units at the highest level of when we were going and doing things, right? You've had folks that...
I love how we can't say that anymore.
I know.
Sorry.
Oh, well. Yeah. And, you've had people like, I'll just say like Chadwick Bowles or whatever that, how much... I think Chad did 10 years, so you got folks that did 10 years, 25 years, 20 years that have a swath of experience that were all, in the GWAT time, some before, some after, that have all got great experience that you can really glean information from and motivation and mentorship from. So, I mean, capitalize on that.
Yeah. And bring that information back to us, please. Like we're not the people with all the answers. We're, three dudes, 2.5 dudes, maybe, with our experiences and all this other stuff. And it's fairly limited. So, it's good to get your information from multiple different sources and figure this stuff out. So that was a 2.5 dude joke about Jared's height, by the way, for everybody that missed it. You're sweat.
But humility is definitely a thing that you need to carry with you through, not just through development, but hopefully for your entire career. I mean, really, because it doesn't just stop as soon as okay, I'm now in the pipeline or I now have my bray. I get to a team and now guess what? Everybody needs to be doing what I'm saying. Everybody needs to follow me because I'm the best dude on this team. There's a healthy amount of like mentality where you should go, yeah, I want to be the best. Yeah, for sure. But to understand that, and maybe in some aspects, you will be the best at something. It's okay to acknowledge that you are the best at something, on your team or in the unit. Like, hey, I'm the best at this. You can still be humble while humanable, while thinking that it's just talking about it less and acknowledging and then teaching people.
Yeah, well, I think we've all met that person, right? There's a line between like arrogance and just knowing that you're good at something and honesty, right? We've all met those people that are like, I am the fastest dude on this team or whatever. I'm the best shooter. And that's true. They're the best shooter, but they're just stating a fact. Like that is what it is. We were in the team room one time. I remember the story, and we had, every guy. There's always that guy on the team that kind of has a big mouth. There's two guys on the team to set the table. One guy was really physically fit, but like not like your IFT specialist, right? Like maybe not the fastest runner and all these other things. This other guy was the fastest runner, the IFT specialist, right? Like all the cardio, all the calisthenics. Like he was really good. And this is back when we used to do the AFSOC PT test. And the guy that was really good at the test had a big mouth, and the guy that was the jiu-jitsu killer that maybe didn't run as fast did not have the big mouth, but didn't put up with anybody's shit. So yeah, so like this happened in the team room one day. This guy comes in and is like, "I'm better than all you guys. Like I crushed this PT test." He's kind of being funny, but kind of being like a pain in the butt. And he started poking his finger at the dude that was better at jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So what ended up being executed was he was told not to do that again. He did it again and got too close to the guy, and he got grabbed by his sensitive areres and his like shoulder and tossed on the ground. And it was fun because we were all standing around, watching him get smothered. And I remember I just leaned over. I'm like, dude, use your cardio to get out of that, to get out from underneath Mount. Like this other guy's way better. But like, like it was pretty funny. But he got dick tossed. That's what we called it.
Man, that's rough. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. But like, like he crossed the line. Like we all know that he scored the highest on the PT test. But I mean, and he was kind of joking and whatever. But like, it was a pretty funny story. But his cardio couldn't get him out of there. I'm just saying.
Well, that's part of being in the team room, though.
Oh yeah.
You're going to talk shit. You're expected to talk shit. But there's a difference. Like having fun with it and talking shit is different than, we can tell when you mean it. When you're like, oh my God, this dude really does think that he's better than all of us. Like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And now you become a target.
Well, there's different types of fights in the team room, right? Like no one got hurt during that fight. Yeah. Not really. And there, I mean, when I was at the 2-3, there was another thing where like somebody was talking about fitness and some other dude was like, well, I can choke you out. And they found out. They found out who was better at what right there in the team room. And they did it multiple times. It was awesome. Sorry.
Okay. So we kind of, no. We kind of hit on that humility, right? I think another aspect of it is kind of a teamwork, aspect of it. And yeah, you're not technically a team at that point, but you are a team, because you are relying on each other for certain things within that development session, whether it is, if you tell somebody you're going to pick them up to take them to development, that's part of it. If you tell somebody you're going to bring something, then you should bring it. If you tell somebody that, you're going to do something, you do it. It could be ensuring that all the team gear and everything is prepped for that session for the day, before the developer gets there, or, I mean, the list goes on and on. Dude, ensuring everything. I don't know are they marking things in development?
I don't think so.
But it would be good for you to mark things just because guess what? You're there with essentially some randos, right? So maybe mark your gear. Boy, everybody will think that I love marking my gear.
Oh my goodness. That's what the next t-shirt should be, like a piece of tape with like your name across it or something. Trainee Peaches. Yeah. A1C Peaches.
Oh man. Yeah.
But like teamwork is important. Like there's no such thing like a team is not in our community. A team is a lot more flexible. Like the word is a lot more flexible than like it's not like a Green Beret team of like 12 guys doing something, and they tend to stay together a lot longer than like our teams. Like you need to be able to like jump into a team anytime you find yourself in a group of people that has similar goals. Like that's a team. And so it's not like, oh, like I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to get my beret and like F all the rest of you guys. Like that's not what it is. Like you need to jump in there and do your job. I'm not saying you need to drag people along, because I'm also not a huge fan of, cheerleading and dragging people along that shouldn't or can't be there. But yeah, like if the showtime is 0900, right, for your development session, if you can, and I know there's a lot of things going on out there in your life, show up early. So like, yeah, when your developer gets there, help them unload their vehicle, help them with everything that it is. Like, you're only going to learn more by doing those types of things. It's going to make you a better candidate, because guess what? In the pipeline, the cones do everything like that. I mean, you set up all the gear, you set up everything. Like, if you're there, we're going to make you do it. So it's just going to get your mind right.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Help unload the vehicles when they show up. Like, are you really going to expect the developer to do all of that? Come on. Also, like, whenever they call you over, like, hey, everybody get on me. There needs to be a sense of urgency. You don't just freaking lollygag over, just kind of like, oh, okay, all right. No, there needs to be a sense of urgency. He's there, he or she, because I know we've got both in terms of developers. They are there because they want to be. Yeah, okay, sure. They get paid to show up and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, they would rather their time not be wasted. And they are, in a way, you have recruiters that are kind of a screen door for the community, a filter. Well, the developers are too. So, you have a filter of a bunch of different layers that are going through, and recruiters, developers, and then you go on to BMT, and then through the pipeline, all the cadre there. They are all filters that to try and filter out shit. So if you're shit, hopefully you don't make it.
Yeah. And that's all it is. I mean, I used to say that in SWIC. I would tell people, like, I am not going to push shit down this pipeline. Like, you'll have like a list of names stamped onto your backs of people that have stamped, like, said, like, yes, good to go, good to go, good to go. Like, I'm not trying to put my name on shit moving forward, because that is a reflection of me and the program and all these other things and all the other people that are here with me doing their jobs. Like, we're not doing that. So it's on you to prove that you're not that, to get that stamp of approval. But
that's also kind of why the cadre that are there, whenever people that are in the community or have retired, start chucking spears at cadre that are they're training and selecting people.
mm-hmm.
That's why they take it personally too, because if you do go out and you on a team and you act up, don't think that somebody's not calling right back to one of their buddies who's a cadre and going, hey bro, what the fuck? Like,
yeah.
What's up with this dude?
Yep. I remember being at phase 2s for like NCOs when we used to do that. And I would have to defend, Jake from Keesler that I was stationed with, Big Jake. But like, you know what I mean? Like there was a reputation of our schoolhouse that may or may not have been earned necessarily, but like someone said something about, what we were doing, and they brought up his name. And I'm like, whoa, that is not what's happening. So like everybody knows everybody. It's a super small community, and everybody's trying to do the right thing. And you put your name on people and you push them forward, and sometimes like it's with reservations and sometimes it's not, but everybody's doing the best that they possibly can. But dude, it's hard not to get into like a grind my gears when you talk about people not moving with a sense of urgency. It's just like,
go for it,
dude. Like those development sessions, right? Like it's hard. I think it's hard for us sometimes. Like and bless the developers' hearts, because they're so patient. Like like they don't get paid what they could get paid. Like they are there literally because they care about the community, like, and they want to do a good job. B, like I've seen it where they're like, hey guys, huddle up, and like they take forever, and I'm like, I can feel my veins starting to pulse in my neck. Like he's the guy. When he says go, you go. Like, and I get it. It's like step one of like a million steps, and I'm used to seeing guys a lot further along. But man,
you nailed it though. If it's step one, right?
Yeah,
start it there, because I tell you what, if you learn that there, one, it shows good character, right? And it shows that you actually want to be there. Two, it's already training you and others, because others will see it and go, oh, look at that. All right, well, I'll start hustling up. And I promise you, it will help you out once you get into the pipeline.
Yeah.
Because you will pay, and you will pay dearly if you do not hustle and have a sense of urgency.
Yeah. Well, it'll also, like, the cones filter themselves as well, right? Like, you'll see who's too cool, that's probably not going to make it, who's worried about how they look all the time and all this other stuff. Like, pipeline's not a place to look cool, at least not when the cadre are around. Like, y'all can do whatever you want when we're not around, but
no, you can't.
just don't get caught. But you know what I mean? Like it's not the time to look cool. It's the time to do what you're told to perform the best that you can. So,
Yep.
you know, started at development, and you're going to see those candidates out there that are like, oh, like, well, I'm not just because this dude told me to do this. Like, no. He said move, you move. Like
Yep.
it's a good habit, and those habits don't just get formed in that environment. Those habits also get formed. Those good character habits while you're by yourself. Like, well, we've talked about it before. When the development session ends and the developer gives you a bunch of advice and like takes 20, 30 years of wisdom and tries to dump it into your head, and then you go home, do something with it. Don't just wait for the next development session.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think you're going to get ready for the pipeline doing the one development session, I don't know, what are they doing? I know different locations are different because, we're limited on developers and they're regionally based and all that kind of stuff. But I think most of the groups are getting together at least once a week. Maybe not with a developer, but
Right.
as a crew, they're getting together. So you're not going to get ready by just working out once a week or going to development once a week. You've got to be training consistently. So, yeah. You did.
Sorry. What's your resume going to say when you enter the pipeline? You know, like put it into words. Is it going to say self-starter, good teammate, all these other things? Or is it going to be like bare minimum? Like it might take a miracle. We've seen the 1% of barely make it before. But I had to pass them because they met the requirements.
Yeah, exactly. You said something earlier, and I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it was talking about some of your fellow candidates and how they are and whether or not people will make it. I think that's important to acknowledge. And I know that we've said it on Discord before, but like it's important to acknowledge that not everybody that you're with is going to make it, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to make it, and whether that is because of physical fitness, meeting the standards, overall they're just not mentally tough for it, or they're dealing with a lot of other stressors from whatever, their parents are sick or something like that, and maybe now is just not their time, or maybe they're just so young that they're just not ready yet and they need a couple years to season. So it's okay to acknowledge you're not going to. I think what it was you was talking about, like carrying people with you. There are some people that they just need a little nudge, and I don't mean that false motivation. I mean like, hey dude, I know you're going, like, because everybody has a bad day.
Yeah.
Going through the pipeline, and maybe you have a bad week, but the resiliency is being able to show up every single time and put out and do what you've got to do and continue on and not quit. That is the resiliency in the pipeline. It's okay though. People are going to quit. That's why we have an attrition rate.
And it doesn't mean you're not friends. And
Right.
it's easy from the outside to be like, hey, like this dude's not going to make it. Like the cones, like you need to stop dragging this person along and cheering them on. Like for 2 weeks in a row or for the entire time that you've been here, they're the last at everything. And we can illustrate this with like Aaron's story, right? Like it doesn't mean you're not friends anymore. Aaron was still friends with the guys from the first time he was in the pipeline when he went to jump school. And that's like maintaining that relationship could get that person back in the pipeline later after they've picked up the tools or the mentality, or they have a better understanding that's going to get them through the pipeline the second time. And so like if they're your friend, it doesn't mean that you cut them off just because they quit. Like it's fine if they quit or if they get washed out. Like just it doesn't make them a non-human. You know what I mean? Like, but like those relationships were maintained, and that's why Aaron went back through the pipeline and is now a PJ, whether you like it or not. For people that are out there. But like Aaron's also friends with Carrie Kite, right, from a veteran made pod. Carrie never came back, and it's fine. He did great things in the Air Force, and now he's doing amazing things. Like, but it's not like it's not like he came on the podcast. We're like, you're a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Like it's just the reality.
There is that though, and that feeling like whenever you do see somebody who has quit, there is a different, like, okay, so there's a outside of the cadre's office, we'll just make it benign like that. Like usually people that quit or people that have failed have got to line up and that kind of stuff for their out processing, their debrief, and, to get all that kind of good stuff before they move on to the next step in their Air Force career. Well, there is a noticeable difference in people that quit and people that, like fail an event or fail an eval and then they're out. And within those people that quit, there are also what I've noticed two different types of folks. There's the people that regret it immediately and they can see it like it almost like it just came out of their mouth and they realize what they did afterwards. And then they're like, oh crap, what did I do? And the other people are kind of a relief, like a weight's been lifted off their shoulder because they never should have been there in the first place. They didn't know what they were getting into.
Yeah. And it's a significant emotional event for everybody, right? Like if you're on team and your buddy quits, like that's a hard day. That makes the day harder. Like it's hard to like not attach yourself to people. And but like I'm just saying like that stuff will fade or should fade, and don't think too much about it. You know what I mean? Like it's just you just got to move on. So like that's the math of the situation is everybody's not going to make it. And yeah, like some of those people are going to be relieved and like good on them. Go do great things. And I'll tell you from the cadre perspective, like if you quit, like, and it is so hard when they regret it right away. Like, cause they're like, Sergeant, I just want to get back in there. Like, I don't know what happened. And it's like,
nope.
Well, I'll see you in 2 years, or the pipeline will see you in 2 years if you really want to come back. Like, that's just the way it is. We don't have the time or the resources. And that's what they don't understand is we don't have the time or the resources to keep letting people quit and come back. Like the reason the attrition is so high, it's not that, and we've talked about this. If I had 10 years to get everybody to the standards and to get them through the pipeline, we could probably do it with a way more people. If it was or not, that's dramatic, 10 years, but you know what I mean? Like a much longer timeline.
Yeah.
That we don't have the time. Like this is what we got. And you make it or you don't. So, and it's hard, but like the people that are relieved are kind of fun because they're like, yeah, I'm happy to be moving on.
Well, and a lot of those folks were people that weren't really doing it for themselves anyway. They were doing it because somebody the expectations that they would do it or that somebody wanted them to do it.
Yeah.
So in a way, they're relieved. It is. You're right, though. It is the folks that really, really want to be there and that are really, really good folks, and they just weren't ready, or in a moment of weakness, they allowed those voices to propagate in their head and kind of take over.
Yeah, but when you do the exit interviews, it's like it's important. You just be like, hey, like our expectations for you are to go out and do great things, no matter what, because you were here, and you went through a certain amount of the process, and you learned something about yourself, obviously, because you came in one way, you left another way, and go out and do good things. And so that should be your expectation as a teammate as well. If someone doesn't make it, and if someone's dragging you down, like you got to be honest. You got to be honest with those people and just be like, hey, man, we're not gonna drag you along today. We're not gonna fix all your gear. We're not gonna carry all the weight. We can't do it because all it's gonna do is crush everybody else. And it's not a personal thing. It's just math. You can't carry extra weight the whole pipeline. You can't do all these things. It's not going to work out.
No. Well, and those folks can't, like, it's that, weight, if you will, is heavy enough for their own stuff to then add on somebody else and carry them. It's too much. That they won't make it.
Yeah.
Because now you're weighing that other person down. Like that is something that I was always very cognizant of and it's why we do it I say we as cadre, but it's why the cadre do it, right? In terms of punishment for all. Somebody messed up. Now everybody's going to pay because that level of guilt that person feels, or at least you should feel,
right,
is real, and it's very, very heavy.
You will, and it leads to things, right? Because that person, if they feel guilty, like they have a chance to turn it around. If they don't feel guilty, and then the teammates see it, where they're like, "Oh, well, like it's not my fault." It's like, whoa, like that. Everybody in the pipeline reaches the point where they have to take responsibility for all of their actions. Like that's where we're getting to. And so, like, if you're getting smoked, and the dude that got you all smoked is like, oh, like making excuses.
Oh,
It's going to get real quick. Yeah.
no, dude, we're all doing this for the 5th hour because of you.
Yeah.
To like acknowledge that.
Yeah, like it's fun to watch those moments when the cones actually like they start talking amongst themselves and then they start taking care of the problems for you. It's
I love that.
It's wonderful.
Love that.
Yeah.
Cadre, they just hate me. They're just out to get me. Are they?
Yeah.
Maybe. Probably not, though.
We noticed that also we didn't all do what you did, and now we're all getting smoked because of what you did. And like their eyes open eventually.
No, I do love it whenever the cones end up taking care of inner problems. That's good. Good on you. For those out there that are in it or have done it, like good on you. Keep that up because that's what we need. Because we're going in the team room, you're going to police each other. Hopefully before the commander or the chief find out about it,
yep.
or have to get involved. Like that kind of stuff should not reach the commander or chief if it can be handled at the lowest level.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it's all like a progress thing, right? Like we talk about being your own cadre when you're development or even before that, and holding yourself accountable. And also that's all this is like self-regulation turns into team regulation, turns into all these other things. And that's where that trust comes from, where the commander can be like, I can send a group of fairly young people into the middle of nowhere to do a really difficult thing and know that they're going to get the job done and know that they're going to do the right thing. Like that's where that trust comes from. Like people from the outside sometimes will, and I complain about it all the time. Like, oh, you guys are cowboys because you don't cut your hair or whatever, or you wear rugby shirts and all this other stuff. But that's the opposite of what it is. The thing is the trust, the self-regulation. Like the command knows that like these guys will do what is needed to be done no matter what, and that starts with yourself in development. That you got to regulate yourself before you can start regulating the team.
And that self-regulation isn't always pretty, or it isn't always accepted by people outside the community, right? I mean, it's just not. And I don't mean that it's justifying hazing or anything like that, but like if somebody messes up and it's bad enough, it's like, okay, well, you're going to grab some dirt bikes, like the two of you go grab dirt bikes. You're not allowed to turn them on, and you're going to walk the flight line with them. And you're going to what we call bang gates, and you're going to have a ruck on. And it's not, I mean, that's it is corrective training or whatever you want to call. I don't know.
I mean, it just like in the pipeline, we get you so tired that you can't fake it anymore. If you push the bike around the pipeline, you're going to get to a point where you're too tired to lie to yourself. And you're going to be like, man, I really jacked up. Like you're going to have conversations with yourself. Like you need that space where all we're telling you is like, you need like a space and an environment where you can like actually think about this. Cause like I have a super robust, like arrogant ego type thing. And like, it's easy to like, if someone comes at me with criticism, like my first reaction is like, man, get effed. Like I'm perfect, blah, 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 whatever. Like you get me smoked and you get me alone and you give me some time to think about it. And it's just like, they're right. Like I definitely, I haven't been pushing as hard as I could be. I'm not doing the right stuff. Like by the time I get back, I'll be a better person for this.
I ran into a guy, I'll just use his first name, Corey, here on Nellis. He was on the teams at the 2-2, and we ended up running, and he's running with earbuds in, and he says to me, he's like, hey dude, what, like you just run, no music, no nothing, no, just, it's like, yeah, just me and my thoughts. And that's a real thing. When you're out there on your own and you're just sucking and you don't have something to distract you, all you have is like, that's my thinking time.
Yep.
And it's whether it's positive, negative, or you got to do better, or, ooh, I have this idea for the podcast, or we should do this, or whatever. Like running is when I think, when I'm alone in my own thoughts.
Yep.
That is a real thing.
There's something about it. There's something about breaking yourself down, like and reassessing. And I think that habit starts that is the selection course, right? and we're constantly, every day is a selection, and we do it to ourselves as well. And those are the guys that make it. That's that independence and that self-regulation is it's hard to lie to yourself when you're barely making it, or you're smoked or you're alone. You gotta, and maybe that's just something you develop over time, but you got to learn how to be honest and to fix yourself. So
yeah, I mean, because you're not going to be listening to music in the pipeline. You might be singing Jody's, but
yeah,
you're probably going to be singing.
Yeah. It's weird. The pipeline is a lot different now because it's like, I think they definitely still do Jody's, but I remember like the big thing was the running with the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that happens anymore. I think the rocks got done away with.
Maybe
those,
yeah. I don't know if they know. I mean, I don't think we've ever talked about that before, but we didn't do it in NDOC. We had rocks on and stuff like that, but at Combat Control School, we definitely had rocks, and depending on how large your class was how big or how many rocks you had. Like my class, we had 2 rocks, but I think we had 10 or 12 people. And these are, sizable rocks. They're the size of a football, maybe a little bit larger. And, they're heavy, and you paint them, and you kind of make them your own class. Actually, I know they do, because I've seen there's a stand at ANS that they've got different rocks.
Oh yeah.
So I'm pretty sure they still do that. But yeah, and when you go to go eat chow, when you go on a run, like those rocks go with you, even on the runs. And somebody's carrying it on their shoulder or wherever they got it, and then they got to pass it on to the next one. And it's just forcing some kind of teamwork bond that you have. It's a common goal. Like, we got to get these rocks to a certain place in one piece, unscathed. So that's what we're doing, and we're sharing the effort.
Yep. And it's when those rocks get dropped and they hit the concrete, that is a terrifying sound. Everybody knows what's about to happen, because it's your fallen comrade, right? Or it is your comrade. It's your teammate. You do not drop the rock ever.
Well, you better fall with that rock. This is what needs to happen. You better be falling with that rock. Yeah. When everybody hears that noise and everybody turns around, you better be on the ground with that rock.
Yeah. Dude, there's so many little things like that. Like I was thinking about, there's like a whole set of rules that goes along with the rock. Like we had like, you only carry it on your right shoulder. There's a way that you request the next person to grab it. The next person grabs it a certain way, and you fall out to a certain side of the formation once you don't have the rock anymore, and the other person moves into that, and you fall into the back of the formation. Like we have all these like little traditions and rules and all these other things, and like I think it's easy to forget in the moment when 3 months later, you go home for the first time, and your whole world is like marking your gear, carrying rocks, like calling out your teammates, living, sleeping, eating, like this lifestyle, spending half your time, it feels like, underwater, where, like you're learning a whole lot about yourself. And then, so what happens when you get home? Like, I don't think you even realize like this new culture that you've been inundated with, and how much you've changed when you step off that plane and you go see everybody again.
No. And when you start talking about gear too, you may want to check out ATACLEAT. Oh, that's right. I just did it. Just transition. One'sReady.com. You can get our gear, but you can also get ATACLEAT's gear. So you can get the whole mask, snorkel, fin, ropes, watches, Alice rucks, everything that you need to train for the pipeline, whether you're in development, whether you're not quite there yet, but you want to start getting practice in. ATACLEAT or One'sReady.com. You can buy all their stuff there. You don't need to put in a promo code. The discount will be put in. Or if you want to go to their site, you can go to ATACLEAT.com, in the promo code One'sReady10, and that'll get you a 10% discount.
Yeah, just go to the One's Ready site.
Really,
we set it up to make it as easy as possible, so that we don't have to go through like all the, if you're like us and you've been hitting the head a few times, it's hard to remember all the codes and all these other things. Go to the website, check it out. It all happens automatically there. So, yeah. And if you're an old man and you just want to get, like the fins that last, like it's good equipment and it'll last forever. If you just
there-
want to get on that ruck life or start finning and condition your ankles in that way, like it's just good fitness equipment. So
Yep.
everything in one-stop shop. There you are.
That's it. And then if you need a program to follow, check out Kevin Edgerton over at 18 Alpha Fitness. Great programs. He's got a whole bunch of them. So whether you want to come into Air Force Special Warfare, you want to go Ranger, SEAL, Green Beret, or you want to get, I don't know if Aaron's still doing the BJJ, the Jiu-Jitsu one. I know he was raving about it. And he was getting some feedback from Kevin because I guess I'm probably misquoting here, but whatever, it's got 10% truth. Aaron was saying how easy one of the workouts was, and Kevin was like, dude, you must have the core of a freaking of a tree, because that's the only way that this would not smoke you. And I guess Aaron wasn't doing it right, or wasn't following all the numbers or whatever it was. Yeah. So
because Kev does all that stuff, and Kev is a monster. So
yeah, he is. So 18outfitness.com. The promo code over there is actually the number 1 ready. And that'll get you a discount as well. Some of his merch is actually on our site. His plans are not on our site yet, but we will hopefully get there eventually. But right now, if you want merch, you can head over to our site, onesready.com, for him. Or if you want to buy one of the plans, which I highly recommend, go over to 18alphafitness.com, enter the promo code 1, and then ready.
Boom.
So, yeah. How about that?
I thought we were going to go in another direction, saying that Aaron's core is like super strong. And I'm like, last time I gave him a hug, he felt pretty solid. You know what I mean?
I thought you were going to go with soft, but okay.
I was going to be nice today. He's not here. I didn't, want it to be like, he's part of that jiu-jitsu cult, and that's all they talk about, and sports and all these other things that I don't understand. It's weird.
So kind of moving on from the optimal candidate for SWOE, one of the questions that we got was and this will be specific to TACPs, right? But with the cuts in TACPs, why do we still need so many people coming in? And we've already had, the Air Combat Command's functional manager on to kind of deep dive into what those cuts actually mean, because on the surface, when you hear, okay, they're being cut by X percentage, you're like, okay, they're just taking people and going, and then they're getting out. That is not how.
Get out.
Believe it or not,
all of you on that side of the room. Bye.
Yeah, that is not how it works. So, but go check that episode out, because he explains it way better than I could. But the point being is that we still need folks to come into all the career fields, TACP, CCT, SR, PJ. But with those cuts, the reason why we still need people coming into those is because if not, you're going to create a bubble or a bathtub that they don't have people. So you constantly, like, I don't want to say every day, because that would mean that there's a lot larger of a career field, but there's always people retiring, getting out, or getting medically disqualified from the career field, or so on, So as those folks transition out, we need people, people in we'll just say the mid tier. They didn't kind of fleet up, and so we need somebody to replace them. So it's a constant cycle. It's a life cycle. It really is, of getting people in. So even if CCT and SR were at 100% manned, which they will never be, but if we were at 100% manned, we would still need people coming in, because you have to replace those people that are eventually moving out. It's an escalator or a train that just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah. Well, and there's waves too, right? Like you need people at certain ranks. So like your retraining numbers and the people you bring in are for specific, dips in your manpower at certain ranks and positions and year groups and all these other things. It's a lot of Air Force admin stuff. But yeah, you need that next generation to come in behind you, because people are always getting out. There's nothing static about the career fields, the manpower, at least. There's nothing static about any of the career fields manpower.
No.
And it's a big machine, the bureaucratic big machine. So those people up at the Pentagon that crunch the numbers, like by the time they get the numbers to crunch anyway, And by the time they put the plan together, the strategic level plan to fix the things that are wrong with the career fields, like that takes another year or two to implement. And then you get that coming in. And so like it's always like, oh, too much, too little, too much, too little. Like we're never like, hey, we crushed it this year. Like, we got it exactly right. Things are perfect. Like that's just not how it works. You're dealing with way too many systems, processes, people, and variables. Like every single human in that system is a variable that is fairly unpredictable. Like it's you don't know if they're gonna re-enlist until they re-enlist. Like you don't know if they're gonna retire until they retire. So and then all the other things that could happen to that person, and whether or not they can take an assignment, whether or not they end up outside of their career field because of humanitarian reasons or all these other things. So obviously, like this is my world that I live in a little bit. So it's complicated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you nailed it. There's so many different variables. Like, I mean, there's, and the Air Force does try and do its best in terms of taking care of folks. You mentioned the humanitarian. I know we recently had a soft TACP. I say recently, it's been a couple of years now, but he's back on the team now. But there was a soft TACP that I think his wife had cancer or something like that. And humanitarian, let's get him an assignment. Let's keep him in, sure. He had the option to bounce, right. And get out, but he didn't want to. He still wanted to continue to serve. So it was, okay, let's find an assignment in a place that we can actually kind of put him down, sit him down. He's always home. And also put him in a location where the medical is really good. Like that specialist and whatever that is there. And that's what we managed to do. And I know that that's one person, but when I was at the 2-2, we had, it was like 2 or 3 humanitarians where parents were really sick or were, kind of on their way out, or at least very sick. And the Air Force got them an assignment up to our unit, I think within 2 months.
Dang, that's quick.
Which is extremely fast. I think one was actually a month. Another one was like 3 months because it wasn't as like, oh my God, you got to get this person up there. So the Air Force will try. It doesn't mean that it's going to work every single time. Like I know that there was somebody out here a couple of years ago that, his dad was dying of cancer and they were trying to work it to get him out here quicker. And he ended up getting out here, but unfortunately his dad had passed away before 2 weeks before he managed to get out here. So, it's not every time, can't make it work every single time, but they, functionals, to your credit, do try and make it, try and get it to work as fast as possible.
Sometimes, unless I don't like you. I'm just kidding. That was a joke, everybody.
Nope. That's all. Nope. That's recorded. It's record now.
God, these gatekeepers out here. It's just because they don't like me. Well, yeah, that is what it is. Like, then there's just it's difficult at at a certain point in your career. Like, I don't understand what it's like to be an SEL. I've never been an SEL, right? So like it's sometimes like, and you and I have had these conversations where you've been the SEL before. I've been the functional manager for somebody, and we have to like figure out where our knowledge meets to like make a decision on something, and how which problems you need to work and which problems I need to work. And so, and it was really actually a good time when, I'm dealing with this person's supervisor, who was Aaron, their chief, who was Peaches, and I'm the functional, and we also do a podcast together, and we're all friends. and then working through the Air Force processes and trying to do what's right for everybody involved.
Yeah, which I think, if I remember right, I think that worked out just fine.
It did.
Yeah. Which is fun. Like when you can actually, as a functional or as an SEL or a supervisor, when you can actually call somebody or you can make the system work and it works, and you're like, oh my God, dude, I didn't think that this would happen, but it was a big win. Like that's awesome for all parties. Everybody's on board with it. It's great.
But what you don't see is also the next 18 phone conversations and online meetings that people are like, I don't understand. Like, it takes a lot of work to make these things happen for an individual. I'm not complaining. I'm just letting you know, like, everybody is like, oh, I can just call the functional and like this happens. And this is just me complaining now. And it's like, no. Like, it takes a whole, like, you got to talk to AFPC, A1, all these other people, the person where that person was projected to go maybe for an assignment or all these other things, and, move people around. And it's a good time. Math. It's maths.
It's a lot of it's a big math problem with some variables that are variables that either shouldn't exist or variables that are so complicated and they're 3 layers deep variables. It's weird. Speaking of that, we did have a cross trainee here at Nellis that showed up to be CCT or showed up to ANS, and I actually that reminds me because I got to follow up with him. But so he had an issue, showed up you're going to have to correct me to right, but not all of his medical was done. Like his medical wasn't done within a certain amount of time, or the paperwork. His actual medical was good, but there was a SWA paperwork or something like that. Is that right?
Your flight physical paperwork stuff needs to be fairly current. So this is a little bit of a tangent. Like, so if you join the pipeline and your flight physical is good for 18 to 24 months or whatever it is, it needs to be fresh so that we don't have to, at the special warfare training wing doesn't have to take time to rehack your physical, like in between pre-dive and dive, in between ANS and pre-dive. Like, you need to be good for a certain amount of time so we can get you through enough schools so that you have breathing room if you need to rehack your flight physical. And so we'd like to get you through the entire pipeline without having to do that, because that logistically that's very, very difficult. And remember, like, we're not just taking you and like as an individual, we're taking a whole group of people and throwing them in there. So if like we have 10, 15 people that show up and their paperwork's about to expire on JBSA, where we're kind of resource hamstrung as it is, and then we're like, okay, well, we need to find flight docs to get all these people done and all their, like, whatever specialties they need or whatever waivers they need done so that we can get these folks through the pipeline. Like, it just turns into a giant mess real quick. So that's usually what happens if people, it takes them a long time to retrain for reasons. And I guarantee that person's functional manager, who we both know, has told them, like, make sure your flight physical, I'm not going to hold your hand, make sure it's fresh when you show up down in San Antonio. And this happened to me recently. I told the guy the same thing. He shows up, it's not fresh. Like, we can't put you in the pipeline. Like, we just don't have the resources to hold your hand through this process.
Yeah.
So,
well, the reason why I brought it up is because when I talked to Goot, he was like, hey man, like, this would probably be something good to put out on the podcast just to really, reiterate it. Is it because I guess it's been happening a lot recently, or maybe, for the folks out there, these things kind of happen in cycles where you'll notice a trend and then it's like, okay, well, we need to course correct. We need to put some information out there. We need to hold the functionals. They really go, okay, now we really got to tell people, like, over and over and over again. So I guess this is one of those trend items that's been happening recently with the medical, according to Goot. So, make sure your medical stuff is good. Like, what was confusing to me is that he had showed up and he had already been working out for a couple of weeks as a cross trainee with the dudes down there on what was Blue Team. I don't think it's Blue Team anymore, but
it's whatever not on team group that works out.
And then he was, this was a Friday, and the registrar said, "Hey, you're not starting ANS on Monday or Sunday or whatever the day it was." And he was like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" And so since I know him, he called me, and I'm like, "All right, well, let me call Goot." So So I actually need to follow up with him and see if he started or not.
Well, I'll tell you something too. Like, if you're retraining, like, your functional managers are not going to hold your hand. Like, and here's the problem, right? Is I'll have 10 folks put in retraining paperwork. I'll say yes to whatever, like, or 10 folks I say yes to. 9 of those folks I will never hear from, like, again, until, like, if they graduate the pipeline or they don't. Like, a lot of folks reach back out to me if they, like, quit or get eliminated, and they're like, hey, sorry. And it's like, cool, like, did you try your best and all this other stuff, like, go crush it in the Air Force. And then there's always that one person, right, who's like, well, I mean, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I gave you the exact same instructions. You had the exact same instructions as everybody else. Like, I am not going to hold you. Like, this is part of the process. This is part of the selection process. Like, when you get on team as a staff sergeant, and you have a whole bunch of senior airmen straight out of the pipeline with you, like, you're the admin guy for them. Like, you got to do their EPRs. You got to make sure that they, teach them, how to do DTS and all these other things. And you got to be organized. If you can't put in your retraining paperwork, if you can't show up where you're supposed to be, if you can't make sure all your T's are crossed and I's are dotted, then like I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to go through there and review every single piece of paper and tell you exactly what to do. Like that's not my job. That's your job. And so like that's how I see it. And that might be like a dick thing to say, but like it is what it is. If you don't make it through that process, then I'm too bad.
Man, that's cold. That's so cold.
Yeah, well,
you're a gatekeeper.
I'm not.
I'm keeping people out.
Yep. I want someone that's going to be able to be an NCO. I'm hiring an NCO. I'm not hiring a senior airman. So,
which is exactly why it is limited on the amount of tech sergeants or E6s that we take as cross trainees, because by that, if we take one, which again is pretty rare, right? Mm-hmm. Because our tech sergeants are, I don't want to say the backbone because I think that's overused, but our tech sergeants and our master sergeants are by far our technical experts when it comes to SR, PJ, CCT, TACP. Like they are the ones that are putting in some serious work. Mm-hmm. And they are no kidding the experts. Like don't come to me. You need to go to one of them to start talking about anything and everything, distributed command and control, close air support, joint terminal attack control stuff, like whatever it happens to be, medical stuff. Like they are the experts. Yep. So, and I say that because if you're a tech sergeant hoping to come in, or if you're a staff sergeant with a line number, you better get that package in real fast.
Yeah.
Because even then a line number, a lot of times you guys will kind of like, because imagine you're going through the pipeline. That's, 2 years from now, you're going to be a tech sergeant that's coming up for master sergeant, and you don't really know anything about the career field.
Yeah. Well, I mean, imagine going to maintenance as a tech sergeant, right? Imagine,
oh my God.
If I was as much as I had on my plate as a tech sergeant at like the 2-3, if I would have retrained to go to maintenance, and I'm like looking at master sergeant, and for some reason it happened, and I show up, I've never turned a wrench on a plane. Like I'll turn wrenches in tech school, and then I show up on the flight line with all these people, all these salty maintenance folks who I love, by the way. I love how salty they are. And then I'm like, okay, like I just made master sergeant, so I'm going to go work in the office and supervise all you knuckleheads, and I'm going to make sure that you're doing things the right way. Yeah. Like the amount of nuance involved and all the experience that I don't have is mind boggling. And so like it's a hard sell.
Yeah. And that's not just our career fields. Like, talking to the maintenance group chief at Nellis, like when we start talking about some of the, your promotions and that kind of stuff, is they look for certain things. And we're just using that, somebody needs to be a pro soup. Somebody needs to be an expediter. Like there are these things that they need to hit, back shop and all that kind of stuff. And if they don't have it, it puts them at a deficit or a disadvantage because they don't have that experience. They don't see how that aspect of maintenance works compared to on the flight line and that kind of stuff. So that is why it's just very, very difficult and very, very rare that we are going to take an E6. And like I said, even if you're an E5 with a line number to E6, like that ship may have sailed. And I'm not saying that you should torpedo your promotion, because maybe that's right for you and right on. But man, imagine though, for a second, you torpedo your promotion, right? And you get accepted to cross train into the pipeline, and then you still quit. Imagine that.
I've torpedoed my promotion before and it didn't work out. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, well, I thought I was going to do something else for a while, but yeah.
Oh boy.
And here I am.
You learned it. You heard it here first, kids.
Well, yeah, it's a long. That's a story for another day about when I learned about that. That was my introduction to how much power your functional manners do have versus how much power they actually don't have when it comes to a certain point of doing stuff. And it wasn't their fault. I think they thought they could get it done, but it didn't happen. So I started studying for tech after that. But you're also taking a promotion away from somebody else that's been in that career field too.
Yeah.
Promotions are based on the number of positions we have at certain ranks that we need to fill that are vacant. And so, like, if you come in and you make master sergeant in the pipeline or in tech school or wherever you're at, and you show up and they have to put you in a master sergeant position, one of those tech sergeants in that career field that's been jobbing it the whole time is not going to make master, and they're not going to get that position because you're there. So you better be the best dang master sergeant that ever lived. Otherwise, they're really not going to like you. And you know, I can't speak for other career fields, but reputation in these career fields means a lot. And you can become a chief and retire and all these other things, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean that you know everybody's going to like you, or that you're going to be considered, you know, to be one of the people.
Right here. Here.
Everybody loves you.
No, I promise you that is not the case.
Okay, like 73% of the people like you.
Well, that seems like a good place to end it. So, yeah, little sit down, little fireside chat, if you will.
Yeah. What do we cover? Move with a sense of urgency. So don't be a turd.
But that's the simplest thing that you can control right there, right? Even if you don't know how to tie the knots, mark your gear, do mask and snorkel recovery, you don't know how to do that. The thing that you can start with is be on time, sense of urgency, help others, right? Good teamwork. Those three things right there will put you on a trajectory that will hopefully pay benefit. Well, regardless whether you get selected or you quit or whatever, it'll still pay dividends for you.
Yeah.
And it shows good character.
If you got a whole bunch of thrust, like, you got to be ready for the vector checks too. And then don't be afraid to go in there and bounce around and make a mess. But when you get those vector checks, like, just be open to it. You got to have that humility.
Yep. All thrust, no vector.
Yeah. It's all good.
All right, everybody. Please subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell, leave us a review. Even if you got to use ChatGPT or some kind of Bing AI, just type something in there, have it create a fake freaking review, and then dump it onto Apple reviews. Like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
We're all smart now. We're all smart with ChatGPT. So even if you're stupid, just put some emojis in there. It'll take care of it for you.
ChatGPT will do the emojis and the hashtags for you.
Really?
So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, dang.
Well, that's right, brother. It's learning.
Nice.
So, yeah. But definitely check out our partners. We got a whole bunch. One'sReady.com. You got our own merch. You've got Mission Mercantile on there with leather goods.
Show me that new shirt. You put the new shirt on today. I was out of town. I missed it. Look at that. See? Dang.
That's right. I got on my toes. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Later.